Hello and welcome to Wake GOV TV. I'm Sarah Williamson-Baker from the Wake County Public Affairs Office. We have many exciting topics lined up to discuss for you today, but first we're going to be talking about one of the most important topics, especially to Wake Tech Community College, the Bond Referendum that's coming up on the ballot in November. I'm joined by David Cook, the Wake County Manager, and Dr. Stephen Scott, the President of Wake Tech Community College. Thank you both for being here.
It's great to be here.
Thank you, Sarah, for having me.
Let's start off by talking about Wake Tech's enrollment. The school has been growing by leaps and bounds the last few years. Can you tell us a little bit about that growth?
Absolutely. Last year, Wake Tech served over 66,000 students. We have grown 55% in the last 5 years. So it's a very significant amount of growth, and we became the largest of the 58 community colleges in North Carolina last year. So it's continuing, and that's been in spite of fairly significant state budget cuts.
Mr. Cook, how does the county support the community college?
Well, we do that in a number of ways. We provide some operating support to the community college system, but again, most of their money comes from the state of North Carolina. But the primary responsibility of the county is to fund the capital program. And so all the buildings that you see at the number of campuses for Wake Tech are usually have been built and financed by the county. And so the bond program that we're talking about in November is an additional $200 million to build the capital infrastructure for the community college.
We've heard some discussions about this being able to happen with no tax increase. Can you explain to us exactly how that is? Because that's a very important question to voters.
Oh, I think it is an important question to voters, and we are, in this case, I guess you're happy to hear that we're able to do the bond program for the community college system without requiring a tax increase to pay for the debt. And what that means is we pay like somebody would pay a mortgage on their house for the facilities that the community college has. And as we pay down other mortgages, it increases the capacity to incur more debt without needing new money. And so in this case, we have the capacity for the community college system, so we can go to the voters and say, if you approve this bond referendum, we could pay for $200 million in capital construction without raising property taxes.
And Sarah, that's huge for Wake Tech, that for the county commissioners and the county staff to take that position and make those funds available is greatly appreciated by me and 66,000 students.
If the bond referendum is approved, can you tell us a little bit about the projects that could begin?
Sure. There are a number of projects, first of all, Sarah, spread out over a 4-year period. Let's talk about the North Campus. The majority of the resources will be used at the North Campus. North Campus will add 3 large classroom buildings averaging over 90,000 square feet each, 2 parking decks, 2 regional energy plants, and about a half-mile of roads and parking lots on that campus. That will allow the college to serve additional students in healthcare, additional students in information technology, gaming and simulations, and add a much-needed library learning resources center on that campus. Then a portion of it, about 10% of it, will go to the public safety campus, and it will allow us to complete that campus, add additional facilities for police, fire, emergency medical workers. Then the other large piece, about 30% of the 200, will go to the RTP campus. We have 96 acres in Morrisville that was purchased from the 2007 bond referendum for the next campus. That will be focused on companies in Western Wake and in RTP. It'll focus on things like cloud computing and other IT related areas. In addition, we are working with the companies in Western Wake to find out what are their needs, how do they want them addressed. Companies like Lenovo, Cisco, and NetApps in that area. And lastly, some really exciting stuff like replacing some roofs, redoing 1,900 parking spaces, replacing heating and air conditioning equipment. In 2013, Wake Tech will be 50 years old. And so a lot of the equipment and facilities are 40 years old or older and need major repairs. The whole thing, though, is jobs. That's the other big piece, is that Wake Tech prepares people for jobs.
And that leads me to the last question that I had for you, Mr. Cook. What is Wake County's relationship with Wake Tech as far as helping the business community?
Well, I think whether it's a recession or good times, Wake Tech is a valuable resource in the community. And the feedback we get from businesses is tremendous. So anytime we're talking about recruiting a new company to town or the county, anytime we're talking about retraining opportunities within the county, when in the last 4 years, when you talk about the unemployment rate going up and people needing a place to go to get retrained, reskilled, Wake Tech is there every time. And so we see it as one of the most valuable resources that we have in the area of economic development and jobs. And that's stringing it on top of the K through 12 education system, right? They also have partnerships with K through 12 education. And so they're helping people on the way up the education ladder and older adults when they need to be retrained. So that's a super resource for the county.
Thank you both for taking the time to be with us today. We really do appreciate it. We wanted to also remind folks at home that there are several options for voting early and for voting absentee by mail. You can learn about those programs on the Wake County website at wakegov.com/elections. When we come back, we'll be talking about the state fair and the county's role in making sure the fair is safe.
Bring this one.
Food and Nutrition Services is a great way to put healthy food on the table. And for every dollar of food and nutrition services that is spent, nearly twice as much goes back into the local economy. Food and Nutrition Services. Healthy for you, healthy for the economy. To learn more, call 919-334-1224 or visit fns4nc.org.
It is October, and for lots of people, that means it's time to head to Raleigh and Wake County for the State Fair. Now I'm joined by Wake County Environmental Services Deputy Director Matt Roylance and Community Health Director Sue Lynn Ledford.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Let's talk about the State Fair. It's a huge event and draws lots of people here to Wake County. Matt, what is Environmental Services' role in the fair?
Well, there's really 4 areas where we have a role. The first one, and maybe the most obvious one to people, is inspecting the food vendors that are selling food at the fair. The second is making sure that we have the safe and healthy water and sewer connections for the staff that bring their mobile home use to the fair. The third is the solid waste that's generated goes to our landfill. And the fourth is that if there's ever a need for animal control to respond to an incident, it would be our animal control officers that respond.
Sue Lynn, what is Community Health's role?
Well, Community Health has been very involved in looking at the public health issues that might have an impact when people are at the fair. We work very closely with the staff of at the health fair, and we look primarily at issues that could cause communicable disease and other health-related issues.
Last year there was an E. coli outbreak, and there's been some changes at the State Fair this year coming up, and your staff and you were involved in those. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yes, we were honored to be asked to serve on a work group that actually examined all of the different areas of the fair after the event last year. As we worked with that team, we came to the conclusion that there are tremendous efforts on behalf of the fair to make sure that the experience is safe for the public. Our main focus probably centered around just some really simple things, and that was looking at issues such as where are hand washing stations, how are people and animals in safe proximity to each other, because there are risks to the animals as well as the people that visit the fair. So we played a role in examining all of those areas and hopefully gave what we believe to be very good advisement in that process.
Matt, talking about food when people go and eat, you said that our environmental specialists actually inspect the food stands?
That's right. We have about 150 to 160 establishments that we inspect each year, and the staff goes out and inspects them once to make sure that they're safe to open. And in that instance, what we're looking for are things like, is the equipment functional? Is it clean? Is everything in good working order? Because, of course, it's all got to be sort of assembled on site. It's different than a regular restaurant. We also look at the sources of the food that they're using, that they're going to prepare for the public, and whether that's from an approved source, and make sure that it's not contaminated, it hasn't been opened or damaged in transit or anything like that. And we also want to make sure that there is proper hygiene available, that there's a hand washing sink, like you heard Sue-Lynn talk about, for their staff, and that they're following proper food handling techniques. You know, that's something that we really have to wait until they get operational to see. And we do go back once we permit them to open. We have staff there at the fair every day going by and checking on all the vendors to make sure everything's working the way it should.
We were also talking a moment ago about the groundwater and how your department has a role in protecting that groundwater.
That's right. Every year there's an influx of people that come into work at the fair, and they usually have a camper or a mobile home, and there are about 320 or so last year that we did an inspection on, and we're mostly looking for whether they're hooked up properly to the water and sewer connections. All that infrastructure is there on site, but just getting everything connected, making sure that their equipment is working properly so that the sewage is being disposed of in a safe manner. And there's so many units in such close quarters that it's especially important to just to keep everybody safe.
So for visitors coming in, Sue-Lynn, they're going to notice some changes with hand washing. Can you tell us about the stations that are going to be up?
Yes, the primary thing that I think they will notice is that they're more visible. The stations, there will be some added locations for the hand washing stations, but there's going to be signage that is alerting people to their availability and much more visible to the public. We will also have some volunteers on some of the peak days that come in to kind of be a prompt or a reminder to people that yes, you do need to wash your hands regularly and be alert to that fact.
All right, any advice for folks as they're heading out to the state fair?
Well, from public health perspective, and we work very closely together, environmental health is very linked with public health. But from our perspective, we always stress the fact that people need to remember to wash their hands. There is no better way to protect your health than to make sure you're doing that, and especially when you're coming in contact with various potential contaminants and then consuming food. So that's true in any setting, and we believe that there are ample precautions and resources there to make sure that people are safe. I advise people to be alert and think and wash their hands and to enjoy the fair because it's a great, fun place to be.
All right, thank you, Sue-Lynn. Thank you, Matt, so much for being with us. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, Sue-Lynn will be with us still, but we'll be joined by Jeffrey Hammerstein from EMS to talk about the Tdap vaccination program.
If stormwater pollution was rubber duckies, it wouldn't matter what went down our storm drains. But it does, because stormwater pollution is not rubber duckies. It's trash, oil, cigarette butts, and pet waste flowing untreated to the sea. That's not good for any of us because we all live downstream.
Brought to you by Clean Water Education Partnership, protecting water for North Carolina's people.
Yeah, salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, throw a ball Thursday. Water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday. Let's move Monday, swap us next Sunday. 60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
Whooping cough is a highly contagious illness. It can be especially detrimental to the very young children and some of our older adults. For many other folks, it can keep them out of work or school for an extended period of time. We're joined again by Community Health Director Sue Lynn Ledford, and you're now joined by Jeffrey Hammerstein from Wake County EMS. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We're talking about whooping cough today, and it's an illness that was widely known in the first half of the last century, but it's kind of making a comeback. Sue Lynn, can you explain to us why that is?
We believe that the reason it is coming back is related to a waning vaccine, where people received their vaccine, adults did, sometimes several years back. And the immunity has lessened, and therefore they're more susceptible to the disease. And I believe that sometimes there are people that are not receiving the vaccine as frequently as they should for their children. So between those two factors, I believe that's probably the reason we're seeing an increase.
When we're talking about seeing an increase, Jeffrey, what symptoms would people be looking for in their loved ones or themselves?
So what we're looking for more than anything is a really long, drawn-out cough, the kind of cough that you really just can't recover from. It goes on, and it really kind of takes your breath away. It can be severe and go on for quite some time, including to the point where it actually starts to become very uncomfortable. It's difficult to catch a breath. There may be vomiting. There may be even injury to ribs and that type of thing. So a really drawn-out cough.
The county does have a Tdap vaccination program because whooping cough is one of the diseases that's prevented by this vaccine. Can you tell us about that program?
Certainly. We have actually been pretty rigorous in our efforts to get out into the community. We've worked closely with EMS and some of our other partners in the community to make sure that access is not a problem for people, that they can have the vaccine readily available. We've especially focused on an effort that we call cocooning. The cocooning effort is related to protecting the infant or small child. And the way we do that is to assure that the vaccinated people or the people around them are vaccinated and that they have protection from pertussis, and by doing that we see a decreased incidence in the smaller children. It's very dangerous for a small child.
Whooping cough or pertussis is just one of the diseases that they get protection from with the Tdap vaccine. What are the others?
Okay, diphtheria is one of the different ones, and tetanus. And of course tetanus is one of those that we encourage people to be revaccinated every 8 years anyway. So frequently we say if you can't remember the last time you had this vaccine, you should take this vaccine.
Jeffrey, what are the implications for the community if whooping cough does start to spread, especially for the workforce?
That certainly can be significant because it will put somebody out of work for such a long amount of time, days, weeks even, then it could become quite significant for the community if a massive number of people are not able to come into work. One of the focuses that we've started with, working so closely with the health department, is to make sure that all of the emergency responders in Wake County are vaccinated. By definition of what we do, we come in contact with so many different people, so many sick people across the community. It's important for us to make sure that we are protected first so that we're not carrying, so that we can keep the emergency response workforce at work to be able to respond to the emergencies.
Thank you all for taking the time to be with us. We really do appreciate having both of you here. As with so many of our topics, there's more information about the Tdap vaccination program and whooping cough on our website at wakegov.com. There's also some additional resources if you visit immunize.nc.gov. Wake County's Open Space program is the first of its kind in North Carolina. The objective of the program is to protect as much of the county's land area as permanent open space as possible. The county has developed a computer mapping system model to evaluate open space priorities. The program recently won an award from the National Association of Counties.
In the past, the county would always evaluate open space, potential open space acquisitions when they came to us. And we didn't really have a basis to rank them against other ones that had come in the past or ones that we may have been contemplating to buy in the future. So what we did is we formulated a group of key staff members with Wake County, environmental services, planning, GIS, facilities design and construction in their real estate division, and parks and recreation and open space. The objective was to develop a GIS-based program that could prioritize open space in Wake County. The model works in a very intricate way. There's a host of different criteria that we have injected into it. One is water quality, one is location of the parcel, one is size of the parcel, and then the fourth one is species and habitat. And we were able to gather a lot of different data, again internally with Wake County and externally from Wake County, to build into each one of those classes. For example, the water quality criteria has about a half dozen sub-criteria within it.
We use data from the model almost on a daily basis when we're considering which parcels to buy. But it's really important to keep the data updated. This model draws up a lot of GIS data that the county has, but also data that's coming from the state. And so we rely on our GIS department and our planning department. Bill Schroyer designed the model, and he actually runs it for us and keeps the data updated.
The operation of the model itself is not difficult. Once it was created, it was done in several segments. If any one segment had an issue with data corruption, that could be fixed without impacting the other modules within the tool. We've created a quality product here that actually identifies without question some of the major priorities for open space preservation within Wake County.
I think there's several criteria in why the county received an award for this open space model. One is the fact that we were able to do it internally with the resources we had. We have the ability and capability and the knowledge and expertise in-house to do this. It was created from scratch. And the fact that we involved many of the different departments within Wake County who have knowledge in open space and environmental protection, we were able to assemble that good team. And the collaboration that we had, I think, was key in receiving the award from the National Association of Counties.
Can you consent with me? Imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read. So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child. So let's join hands, book people unite, unearth hidden passion. Come on, we'll have a good time. One book could be the first thing that helps to change a life. Book people unite.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
Welcome back. This fall, Wake County Public Libraries launched a new initiative called Every Child Ready to Read. It's part of a national program aimed at getting kids prepared for kindergarten and getting early reading skills going for everyone. Ann Burlingame's here from the Wake County Public Libraries. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
This new program is part of a national initiative. How does it work here in Wake County?
Well, with studies, national studies, what was discovered is that children more and more are starting school and they're not ready to read. Because you're not expected to know how to read in kindergarten, but you are expected to be poised to be ready to read. And what that means is have an awareness of letters, have an awareness that your letters make sounds, and that if you put letters together, they make words. And so Every Child Ready to Read is a program or an initiative that you want to base your programming to children on to get parents those skills to use at home that they learn at the public library.
So I've seen the poster and it says there's 5 skills. What are those 5 skills?
So the 5 skills are reading, writing, singing, talking, and playing. And so in our programs, we are focusing on getting parents comfortable with those 5 skills.
Tell me how those skills work, because singing and playing, not everyone would think of those as being associated with reading.
Well, what you want to do when you're learning to read is you want to be familiar with words and repetition. And the best way to learn words is through singing, because you're singing a song and the words are repeated over and over.
And playing, how does that come into reading?
In playing, we have games and action rhymes and finger plays where you are using those gross motor skills, and also it's this repetition and understanding that letters together make words and words have certain sounds.
So if we had a 2 or 3-year-old here with us, what is kind of a way you would demonstrate that to them?
Well, most likely what we're going to do in all our programs is we open with some information about Every Child Ready to Read, and then you always open with an action rhyme. So that's either open, shut them, which is a rhyme that children use gross motor skills as well as they learn repetition. And that's what you want to get parents comfortable doing at home with their children too, because that teaches children that words and that letters together make words.
We're talking about story times, and as part of this program, we're adding a lot more story time options for parents. Tell us about those.
Well, we've always focused on programs for the young child, but what we've discovered is that we could offer many, many more. And so this year we are expanding our programs from about 60 programs per week in 18 libraries to 150 programs per week.
That's a big increase. If children are more prepared for school and for reading, how does that help them be successful?
Well, when you start school, if you're aware of letters, if you're aware that together letters make sound, if you have a comprehension skills that you can sit in a group and listen, you are going to be more successful in school than if you haven't had those experiences. And if at home your parents are playing, singing, talking, reading to you, you're going to be more comfortable when you start school and you're in a learning environment.
Ian, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
There's information about all the Wake County Library programs online at wakegov.com/libraries. You just click on their events page. You can also follow Wake County Libraries on Facebook and Twitter. Just search WCPL online. That's all for our show today. To keep up with the latest Wake County news and information, visit wakegov.com/news. You're also invited to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a great day.